Okay, guys, welcome back to the blog this week. I'm super excited to introduce you to Dana Mentink. Hi, Dana.
Hello, Dina. Thanks for having me.
So we got Dana and Dina.
Perfect.
It's gonna be fun. So I'm glad to have you with us, and I just want to go ahead and just send it over your way and let you introduce yourself to us and tell us what you want us to know about yourself, your family, anything like that.
Well, gosh, I'll try to keep this, brief to the
Mhm.
point. I am a California writer. I've lived in California my whole life. I have a wonderful husband and a two girls. I like to think of them as my babies, but they're really grown up. They're 23 and 25.
Yeah.
They live in California as well. All my sisters and my parents do. So we have a little house here in the suburbs of the San Francisco Bay Area where
Okay.
I just typey away.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you what part. My husband and I he was in the military for 20 years, and we lived in several different areas in California, and we lived on Treasure Island there in the San Francisco Bay.
Amazing. You should write a book about that.
I
That's
have
pretty
I've
interesting.
thought about it. We were actually on Treasure Island when the earthquake hit there during the World Series in 1989.
Yeah, Loma
Yeah,
Prieta. You know what? I mean, not many people can say they lived on Treasure Island, so
I
that's
know.
really
I know.
interesting.
A view of Alcatraz.
Wow.
So,
Wow.
yeah.
Amazing. Amazing.
So that's pretty cool. So talk a little bit about your childhood and what you wanted to be when you grew up. I know some authors say, "Oh, I always wanted to write. I knew I wanted to be a writer," but then others had no thoughts of writing until later in life. So where do you stand there?
Well, I always loved to tell stories. That was my favorite time in school, but I actually wanted to be a circus clown for a
Oh
while.
gosh,
I wanted to
okay.
be an Olympic ice skater. I considered nursing and police work and all kinds of things. So, as
That's
far as a
fun.
practical career, I don't think I considered it as a practical career, but I'm just a natural storyteller by nature. So,
Okay, so do you actually ice skate? Can you ice skate?
no,
Okay.
absolutely not. I am absolutely a complete klutz. It was kind of a deal breaker for being an Olympic athlete is you probably need to
Yeah,
know how to ice skate.
yeah.
Not very practical life goals, but there you go.
Right.
You have to dream a lot when you're a writer, right? You have to dream.
I know. I said all those things that I wanted to be when I was a child that I never became. All my characters now can do those things.
Exactly. I did write a book about an Olympic ice skater.
Oh, cool.
That was fun.
Awesome.
I haven't done a circus clown yet, but I just wrote a mystery that takes place at the circus. So see, that's the beauty of
Fun.
writing, isn't it?
I
You can do
know.
whatever
I
you want.
know. Characters, we can just live vicariously through them.
Wonderful. Yes.
So, when did you actually start writing, and then seriously considering, hey, like, I think I'm going to try to get this stuff published?
Well, I had started writing as a young adult. I had a mystery written, and when I had my first baby, I I was a public school teacher, so I took some time off of that to stay at home with the baby. And you know what I found out? Infants are not very good conversationalists. So I was like, this is really lonely. So I, joined ACFW and I heard of a publisher looking for a Christian cozy. And I just said, well, I got one.
Oh,
And that kind of evolved from there. And then I sidestepped into suspense and sort of been doing that for 25 years.
yeah, I love suspense, by the way. It's one of my favorite genres to read, and maybe one day I will attempt to write a mystery suspense. I don't know. I feel like I'd have a hard time carrying that through the book, like that on the edge of your seat kind of thing, and then weaving it all together where the reader is guessing and wondering, and it's
Just a balancing act. It's juggling, which there you go. Now I can
okay. That
my
circus
need to be a
clown again.
circus clown is popping in again. There it is.
Yeah, I'm sure there's lots of classes and things too that you can take and books to read on how
Oh, tons.
to do
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
More than you'll ever need.
So, what inspired you to write mystery suspense? Why that genre instead of something else?
I'm easily bored. I have attention deficit, so I'm always like, okay, what's next? What's this? And it's a pacing thing that I need. When I read, I want to not know what's going on and I want to be running through the story quickly. So that's why I write.
Mm,
And always the puzzle, right? The mystery is always about
yeah,
solving the puzzle. So that's really the satisfying thing for me.
right. So do you read other genres besides mystery
Yeah, I
suspense?
pretty much read everything except for fantasy, not too big into that, but I love psychological thrillers,
Okay.
suspense, mystery, whatever.
So
Even
do you read
women's fiction.
historical? Like,
Sorry?
do you read historical ever? Bec-
Sometimes, but it has to be just that kind of history that is uniquely a unique angle or something,
Yeah, because they can
But
tend to be
well written,
very slower, much slower paced.
right? But you know what? A well written book is a well written book. It doesn't matter what the genre is, and a well written book can keep you turning pages,
Mhm.
even if it's not a suspense thriller. So
Yeah,
as
yeah,
long as it's a good book, I'm in.
very true. I feel the same way. I read lots of different genres too. Of course, we have our favorites. Um,
Yes.
so tell us a little bit about how you go about incorporating Christ and hope into the books that you write. In mystery suspense, that might be, I don't know if that's more difficult than writing, say, in a women's fiction or something, or a romance. I don't know.
Well, it's the balancing. You have the balancing the suspense, the romance, and the faith. To me, there's no point in writing a story unless there's hope in it.
Hmm.
And Christ is our hope,
Yes.
our only hope. And I write a lot about forgiveness. So it's just like writing any other book. For me, it's just my worldview and it's sort of integral. I do write for the general market as well,
Okay.
but I find it you can weave your hope and your message in there if you have a desire to do that. So you just write as a reflection of what is your most important values, I think.
Yeah.
It's just, it's a balance though, because you don't want it to be preachy,
Hmm.
but you want that message to come across strongly. So it's always that delicate balancing act, I think.
Right. So if you have a Christian worldview and that's how the lens you look through for life, then obviously that's going to show up in your characters and the
Mm-hmm.
way they're looking at the world and the decisions that they're making. I'm sure that comes through. Right.
Or the decisions that they should be making and aren't making,
Yes.
which I think is more realistic.
Yes. And
And seeing
hopefully
how they
they're
evolve through that.
right,
Right.
growing through the story and learning how
Mm-hmm.
how to do things better, make different decisions. I love
Right.
stories
Absolutely.
that have a spiritual lesson and help me grow spiritually um, as I read them. So, what
Absolutely.
about pets or animals? I know lots of readers love animals in the stories that they read, and there's a lot of suspense books with canines and that kind of thing. Do you have pets or animals in your stories?
Yes, a lot of the love inspired books wind up having dogs in them.
Okay.
My general market mysteries also have dogs because it's their cozies. Um, yeah, so it's hard to incorporate a lot of other types of animals, but we have managed to do donkeys. We had a feral donkeys in this Death Valley series we did.
Okay.
Occasionally a cat once or twice.
Yeah.
After that, it's tricky, but
Mm-hmm.
animals just so enhance our lives, and it's such fun to put them in the
Yeah.
novels.
So, do you have pets yourself?
I do. I have a dog. Her name is Junie. She's a rescue dog. I call her 10 pounds of trouble in a fur coat. And we have a very, very old, aged box turtle. Her name is Boydie. And in my social media, you can follow the drama llama. The drama llama with
Gosh.
Boydie is she's not supposed to hibernate anymore because she's elderly. So my job is to keep her from hibernating and keep her eating through the cold months. So you wouldn't believe the shenanigans we do around here at Mentink Manor to try to keep that darn turtle eating.
Wow.
So
Sounds like a challenge. Sounds like a challenge. Now, I think that could end up in a book. I do.
it could, but it's quite comical, so it doesn't always fit in a suspense novel, but it's a constant juggling act around here with that turtle.
Yeah. Maybe one of the villains could have some fetish, a turtle fetish or something.
Well, he better be good to turtles because, I can't stand it. I just read a book and I was absolutely horrified because the dog, I won't give you details, but the dog was Killed
Oh
in the
no.
last chapter in this horrible, gruesome way. I was, I, I, I can't read any more books in the series because I was so upset
Mm.
that that happened. And I think writers should warn you, right? Like it's very, I can't stand it when a dog or beautiful animal that you come to love for
Yeah,
22 chapters is killed.
right.
I mean, that was just like, I felt betrayed. So I'm not going to read any more books in that
Oh,
series.
but you know
Anyway,
what? We can kill human beings off in these stories all day long, and everybody's
exactly.
okay with that.
Exactly. And why is that? I don't know. I mean,
I
I think
know.
especially in our world, we treat animals better than people sometimes.
I know. I've
But
thought of that before with the books, how, being a fairly new writer, had people say, whatever you do, do not kill an animal off in your book because the readers will hate you and they won't like your book if you kill the animal. You can kill any of the people that you want pretty much. Just don't kill the animals. Like,
well, I do. I'm a little sensitive to children too. I don't
oh yeah. Oh yeah.
usually
That's hard.
enjoy books where, you know, the children
Yeah.
are that I have trouble with that too. So
Yeah.
I guess I'm a marshmallow reader. I'm
I
like,
know. I
oh,
was
I
gonna say it's hard too. Like for me, women's fiction, you're trying to depict real life,
Mhm.
and sometimes it's not pretty and things do happen and
I think it
well,
depends on how it's handled. If it's a
yeah.
very graphic description, I read a lot of thrillers and a lot of
Hmm.
times it's very graphic and I don't
Yeah.
want to know that about the child's
Oh yeah.
journey, right? If you tell me about it, okay, but I don't need to relive it
Yes,
in my mind, you know?
I agree. I
So it's a
agree.
matter of how you treat the subject matter, I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So do you have a favorite book character from your childhood that comes to mind?
You know, I was really huge into the Wizard of Oz series.
Hmm.
So as a kiddo, I was just all about Dorothy. Man, that Dorothy, she had spunk. I just admired her to no end.
Yeah. So
Hmm.
you watched that movie? I know when I was a kid, there was no such thing as streaming and,
Right,
putting it up on a DVD or whatever. So we had to
right.
wait every year for The Wizard of Oz to come on TV. My next door neighbor and I, we would, have our popcorn and have our plan to watch The Wizard of Oz.
And you know, as a teacher, I taught for many years, and towards the end of my career, the kids didn't know that movie. You
Oh
know, that was
gosh.
old. But I had all the books. Did you know there's like 14, 16 books in the
No,
series?
I know I didn't. When you said that you read the series,
Yeah.
I'm like, I didn't even know.
Oh, I have them all. They're my treasured possessions. And after L. Frank Baum passed, his daughter took over as writing the series. So
Okay.
it's I just the characters just I just love the whole world building and the
Oh
just the
yeah. Very
imagination.
cool. I'll have to look into that.
They're wonderful,
All right.
wonderful.
So
Love it.
let's talk a little bit about your writing and your current novel. Tell us the title of the one that's going to be released here in March. Uh, the
It's
title, tell
Target.
us about the location, anything you want about the book.
Okay, it's Targeted in the Desert is the new one's coming out at the end of the month. It's the end of a 6 book series, so this is bittersweet for my
Oh,
heart.
it's going to be goodbye.
I know, because you know what? By the 6th book, you really love these people.
Hmm.
And it takes place in Death Valley, which is one of my most amazing places to visit ever. And it's follows the Duke family. They're not all siblings, they're cousins and all this and that. So the last story, Targeted in the Desert, is Jude. He is the chief of police there in this tiny little town of Furnace Falls. And he's the oldest. I love an older character. And you know, life has battered up that poor guy. So he's going to have a really hard time in this novel, but but he's going to get his happy ending. Woohoo. So, yeah, but it's bittersweet. I'm going to miss that town and miss those characters and miss all the drama and the happy endings and the that kind of thing. So,
So, has the series carried like a theme throughout, or is each book stand alone on its own and focus on a different theme? How does that work in this series?
well, I'd say altogether, obviously it's the importance of family through all 6 books, but each book has its own little theme and character arc and faith journey and that kind of thing. So,
Hmm.
but at the end, you have that moment when the family comes together and you're like, oh, thank goodness, and they all survive. So it's
Yeah.
mm-hmm.
So, this Targeted in the Desert, what is the premise of this particular story? Like, let's say when the book is finished and people close that cover, what are you wanting to resonate with them at the end, or just remember about this family or about what they've read?
Well, I think that I want people to think about the fact that you are not who the world says you are. And sometimes we have tragic experiences in our youth and our growing up, and we just label ourselves with labels that we've heard. And it's sometimes really hard to think you are who God says you are,
Mm,
not who the world says you are. And so that's really important to me, that people feel that
mm,
sometimes we write the ending of our chapter before God's ready to close our chapter.
mhm.
So I hope people come away with that. I hope their hearts are warmed. There's a Harlequin Great Dane in this book.
Okay,
Stretch is his name. I hope
perfect.
you have comic moments and love moments and scary moments, and most of all, you feel fulfilled and comforted at the end of the book.
Mm. Okay, so one thing you said about labeling and people knowing who God created them to be reminded me of a sermon I had listened to on a podcast this past week, and the pastor that I was listening to had made this comment that we don't have the right to label what God created, that he made us, so only he can say who we are and give us our identity. We can only label things that we create. And
Hmm,
I thought that was really interesting and kind of stuck with me. What you said just reminded me of that. So,
good way to put it.
hmm,
It's so hard to remember sometimes, isn't
it
it? Because
is.
the world is a noisy place, and the
Hmm.
world is a lot of putting people in boxes. And
Yes.
once in a while, we just need a reminder.
So you've been writing and publishing for quite some time now. How long?
Hmm. About 25 years.
25 years. So there may be some people watching this who are thinking, I'd like to write a book and get it published, but I have no idea how to go about that, or if I should, or if I could. What kind of advice would you give to someone who might be thinking about trying to publish a book?
Well, I think this is going to sound strange, but I think you need to decide why you want to publish a book. There's a difference between I want to publish a book. That's very easy to do. You can self-publish. You can do it in a million different
Mhm.
ways
Yes,
now.
yes.
So I want to publish a book is one thing. I want to be a professional writer is another thing. They're two totally different things.
Yes.
One is a small business. You're basically running a small business, and you're writing a project, and it's all about that next project too. If you want to write a book just because you want to tell that story, you want to publish that story, you don't necessarily need to follow the same path as somebody who's going to make a career out of it,
Okay.
right?
Yes.
So I think that's important to know, because sometimes people spend a lot of time and energy and money and learning time and all that pursuing something that maybe they really just wanted to write the one book.
Mhm.
So I think it's just good to know what your point is when you go in. Do you want to be a professional writer? Do you want to publish a book? Decide, and then you'll be able to have more clarity about which direction to take.
That sounds like good advice, because I will say, if it's just about that one book, like I've spent a ton of money, already pursuing this with the conferences that you go to, and the books and the website and the hosting and all the subscriptions, and it's a lot. I've told a lot of my friends, like, you have no idea when you're holding that book in your hands and you're enjoying that story and you're loving it, you have no idea what that author went through to get that book into your hands.
Mm-hmm.
um, it's pretty amazing, the tenacity and the determination and
Absolutely.
dedication that is required to be a published author. It's mind blowing.
And I've had people tell me I need to tell my story, my memoir.
Mm,
And absolutely, the story needs to be told. But do you want to pursue an agent and publishing for that one book? An agent doesn't want one book. An
right.
agent wants a career of books,
Yes.
right? So
Yes.
Just know what you're wanting to do so you don't waste your time and you don't waste anybody else's time, and you make it as easy as you can for yourself.
Yeah.
Because there's amazing programs. You can self-publish a book, no problem. You can use Vellum. It's super duper easy.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
just know what your goal is.
Yes. Have you self-published any books?
I have.
Okay.
I think the key there is you need to make sure they're super duper well edited.
Oh, yeah.
The mechanism for
Yes.
publishing is very simple. The problem where people fall down is not putting it through many levels of editing. I know
Right.
I've done the same. You just really need to make sure that's a quality product. But
Yeah.
there's so much opportunity to
Mm-hmm.
produce your own book, market your own book,
Mm-hmm.
publish your own book,
Yeah.
So that didn't exist 25 years ago. So
Oh, I know.
and self-published books are now selling as well, sometimes better than traditionally published books,
Mm-hmm.
right? So
Mm-hmm.
you hear those self-published, New York Times best-selling books.
Mm-hmm.
That wasn't ever the case 25 years ago either. So you don't
Yes.
have those big gatekeepers that you used to have before.
Definitely changed and is continuing to change.
Absolutely. It's still evolving.
Yeah. So before we wrap this up, is there anything burning within you you'd like to tell people who are watching about your writing or about this upcoming book or something else? Maybe how you can connect with them through your website or social media.
Well, let's see. I'm on social media quite a bit. I don't spend a lot of time on my Dana Mentink's reader page, to be honest, but I have a private group that you can message me and I'll invite you. But that private group is really my family. We have Monday prayer and praises. We have little things all the time. We're always sharing. It's really a community, which I don't find in my other social avenues quite as well. So if you really want to connect with me and you want to be part of our community, we'll pray for you and the whole business. Just find me on Facebook and message me and say, I'm going to join your private group, Dana. That's sometimes very little about my books and mostly about life and faith and supporting each other and that kind of things. There's wonderful, wonderful people there. So would love to have you. I do have a newsletter with a newsletter goes out once a month through my website, and that's about ready to come out. We always have little prezzies and prizes and things like that. But would love to connect with you further.
Yeah.
God bless you all. It's a
Yeah.
rough season and a rough world out there. So I hope you feel encouraged, and through books or other people or whatever, we need to really, really encourage each other at this particular time in the world.
Very grateful for Christian fiction that God allows us these avenues to just get away from the crazy that's going on and get lost in a story that can bring hope. And yeah, it is. It really is. And people who are not readers, who don't pick up those books and get lost in them, are really missing out on a huge blessing. Kind of an escape, a healthy escape.
Right. Yes, absolutely.
Well, I'm going to be dropping all of your links into this post so people can connect with you and find you if they want to connect further. And I'll be giving information. I know you've offered a giveaway. You're giving away a copy of Targeted in the Desert and a Starbucks gift card I have in my notes.
Yay, because you got to have some coffee while you're, that's my go-to. Have a little coffee while I'm drinking.
Right.
A story.
So if the winner is a U.S. winner, you'll get a paperback. If you're an international winner, an ebook will be coming your way. So make sure you comment on this interview in the time that's allotted, and you'll see that in the post to be entered into the giveaway. So yeah, it's been a pleasure chatting with you, Dana, and getting to know you a little bit and learn about your writing, and keep writing those great mystery suspense stories for us to get lost in.
I will do my best, and I wish you the best in your writing as well. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Have a blessed day.
Take care.